Dr. Joe DeMarco, chiropractor and owner of OcraMed Health. And each week when I think of topics for videos, in particular when we're doing like an injury-related video, I have a lot of information to choose from because I'm treating patients all week long in my office, and I have a lot of interesting injuries that come into the office, and a lot of times I use those for ideas for videos. Now, this week's video is different because the inspiration for this week's video is my own injury. I've been dealing with an injury for several weeks, and it was kind of an interesting injury, and I just thought it would make maybe a good video. So let me give you a little rundown on what happened. Now, I didn't have any particular traumatic injury, but about 6 or 7 weeks ago, while I was deadlifting, I could feel some discomfort in what I thought was kind of like a high hamstring pull or a high hamstring injury. Sometimes people call it a high hamstring tendinopathy, pain way up on the hamstring. I actually did a video on that a while back. I'll put the card up above me. If you have a hamstring injury, check it out. I didn't, but that was my initial thought, hamstring injury. Didn't think much of it that first day because, it's not unusual to be working out and to have, little aches and pains. And I don't jump the gun every time I have a little ache and pain because maybe by the next workout it might be gone. But I continued on that week after that day was deadlifting, and later in the week I was squatting. I could still feel it a little bit, and when I went back to my next deadlift session, again I could feel that pain. It was actually a little bit worse. I knew I had some type of an injury, so I said, boy, I better check this thing out. So I came back into my office, and so my first reaction, like I said, I thought it was a hamstring injury. I figured, well, let me palpate the hamstring and see what's going on. So I started palpating up the hamstring muscles. Now, all 3 hamstring muscles actually attach into what's called the ischial tuberosity, the bottom of the pelvis. Some people call it, it's called oftentimes the sit bone. When we sit down, we sit on our ischial tuberosities. All 3 hamstring muscles attached there. So my initial palpation was coming up the hamstring muscles, pushing towards that ischial tuberosity. And you know what? It wasn't actually sore at all. So I immediately thought to myself, okay, we're not dealing with a hamstring injury. What else could it be? I know that also coming off that ischial tuberosity is what a muscle called the adductor magnus. It's actually the largest of your adductor muscles. The adductor muscles are actually on the inner thigh in here. They're on the inner thigh, the largest one being the adductor magnus. They're muscles that pull the legs towards the center line. And the interesting part about the adductor magnus is that it has what's called a hamstring portion that actually comes off of that ischial tuberosity, and then the adductor magnus actually comes down the leg. It doesn't cross the knee joint like the hamstring muscles. It stops at the end of the femur, but it has that hamstring portion. So as I started palpating off the hamstrings and rolled into that adductor magnus, oh my God, I almost jumped off the table. I almost made myself jump off the table. It was so sore, and I knew that was where the injury was. So a lot of times you can be fooled by these things. I was actually tricked a little bit myself, initially thinking it was a hamstring injury, started investigating, could immediately tell as I palpated that it wasn't my hamstrings, it was the adductor magnus. So I thought to myself, okay, we got to start working on this thing. We got to fix it. So how am I going to do it? Well, of course, the first thing I did was take 3 or 4 weeks off from the gym. Yeah, I don't think so. Of course not. We didn't take any time off from the gym. But what I did was I thought of exercises, which ones were aggravating it and which ones weren't. In my case, the main exercise that was aggravating it was deadlifting. Squatting was bothering a little bit. So I dropped back on some of my weight squatting. I could do it pain-free as long as I dropped back some weight. And I found on deadlifting, I didn't actually have to skip deadlifting at all. I did have to drop back significantly on the weight on the deadlifts, but my theory is let pain be your guide. If you can do an exercise without any discomfort, it's usually okay. So I was able to keep doing deadlifts as part of my workout. I just dropped back the weight significantly. Over the last few weeks, as it's been getting better, I've been able to slowly add back on weight. But the key is to make sure you're not having pain. Now, if I was feeling pain on deadlifts with no weight at all, I would have just skipped the deadlifts. But I was able to do them with some lighter weight. That's how I went about it. All my other exercises, it really wasn't affecting But the main thing was deadlifting. Now, it's not an uncommon injury for weightlifters, an adductor magnus injury. You know, runners a lot of times are moving forward like this. They're running, the legs are coming forward. They're more commonly, it's more common for a runner to have a hamstring injury. Weightlifters, you know, when we're squatting or deadlifting, we have a lot, you know, we're in a position where the legs are slightly straddled. We're engaging that adductor magnus along with, of course, other muscles, and it's not an uncommon injury to strain that adductor magnus. That's exactly what I did. So besides modifying some of my workout, I want to go over with you today some of the fascial release work that I've been doing to help this injury get better. So let's get right to it. All right, so let's do some fascial release work on the adductor magnus. Now, the position I'm in here, I actually have myself propped up a little bit because I'm talking. Normally I would just be lying flat back. So lie flat on the ground. I want the knees bent and the knees off to the side. A good place to do this is actually in a door jamb. You can actually put your foot on the door jamb and have your leg through the doorway, and it's a good way to do it. But this is fine too. Just have the leg bent off to the side. First off, we have to differentiate, okay, where is this adductor magnus? And an easy way to find it is by flexing the hamstring muscles, because when you flex the knee joint, the adductor magnus doesn't cross the knee joint. So if you flex the knee, the adductor magnus does not contract, but the hamstring muscles will. So what I'll do is I'll just push my heel into the ground to flex my knee, and that'll contract my hamstring muscles. So I can put my hand in here, I can feel the tightness of my hamstrings. When I roll up off those tight hamstrings, I'm going to come onto the adductor magnus and it's going to be relaxed. So that's how you can easily find it. Just pull the heel so that you flex your hamstrings, feel the tight hamstrings, roll off of it, and that muscle that you can kind of grip in your fingers here is your adductor magnus. So that's where we're going to start. Now, we're going to start with just some firm pressure points along the adductor magnus, coming all the way from the pelvic area here. Like I said, it goes all the way into the ischial tuberosity. There's some other insertion points, but I'm concentrating more. My adductor magnus injury was more on the hamstring portion of the adductor magnus near that ischial tuberosity, and we're going to hold some firm pressure. Now, you can use the tips of your fingers to dig in there. I'm going to use a Tai Chi ball from OcraMed Health. I want to try to get some of these little spikes on the ball into that deep fascia as far as I can. So, but if you don't have one, you can definitely get away with just getting in there with your fingertips. So once again, I'm flexing the hamstring. I feel the tight hamstring. I roll off of it. I'm on the adductor magnus. I'm going to push that Tai Chi ball into the adductor magnus and pull towards my torso, and I'm going to hold pressure for 30 seconds. After that, I'll move it down about an inch, press in, and I'm going to pull and hold that for about 30 seconds. And I'm going to work in that manner. We're going to go down in 1 inch increments where we push in, pull, and hold for 30 seconds. Now, if I happen to find a particular sore, tight spot in there, I might hold it for 60 seconds. My adductor magnus still has some tender spots in there. I can feel it. It's much, much better than it was a few weeks ago when I first started this. So just kind of gauge your pressure. You know, a few weeks ago I wasn't pushing in as hard as I am right now because I couldn't. It was very sore. So just gauge your pressure on the amount of pressure. But those are just some direct pressure every 1 inch increments down the adductor magnus. After I do that, I'm going to come back up to near the ischial tuberosity area again, and instead of holding direct pressure, this time what I'm doing is I'm going to dig the ball in, and I'm going to dig it around. I'm going to go up and down, side to side, diagonal, and I'm going to spend about 30 seconds just digging those little spikes of that ball into the fascia, into the tissue of that adductor magnus, and then I'll move it down 1 inch again, and I'll just dig in all different directions, up and down, side to side, diagonal, go hit all different directions, and I'll do that type of a technique in 1 inch increments down the adductor magnus. Okay, once I've done both of those techniques, I'm going to go on to where we're going to use the Tai Chi ball. I'm going to be dragging it down the adductor magnus. So this is a good time to grab a little massage cream, nothing oily, but get a little bit of glide on the skin here. So with a little bit of massage cream, nothing oily. I don't want to be slipping, but it could be uncomfortable if you don't have anything on it. Because what I'm going to be doing on this next technique is I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to press it into that adductor magnus, and I'm going to be dragging it down the adductor all the way in towards that ischial tuberosity. Now, as I do that, I'm going to be dragging it, I'm going to be pulling the knee towards my torso as I'm dragging it, and then at the same time as I pull up, I'm going to push it off to the side. And I'm going to keep dragging that ball all the way in towards that ischial tuberosity. So I'm starting in the belly of the adductor magnus here. I'm pulling the knee up as I drag. I'm dragging. Then I start dropping the knee off to the side. I'll put pressure, and I'll just keep pulling till I hit that inside of the pelvis there. 5 or 6 strokes just like that, where you're just dragging that ball as deep as you can get it into the tissue as you actively move the leg in and then off to the side. After I complete all those techniques, the last thing I do is I'm just going to grab my ankle, got my elbow on my knee, and I'm just going to push the knee off to the side, and I'm going to stretch it for about 60 seconds, and I'll do that 2 or 3 times after all that soft tissue work, okay? So that's the soft tissue techniques I've been using. It's feeling a lot better, even just for this video and digging around a little bit to show you guys how to work on it. I could tell it isn't as sore, so I've made some good progress over the last few weeks, but those are the soft tissue techniques I've been using. All right, so there you have it. You know, don't be fooled sometimes with these injuries. Don't be afraid to get in there and palpate around and figure out what your injury actually is. You know, I'm getting better. I've been doing those techniques. If you have a similar problem, give it a try. All right, when you get some time, go to my website, www.OcraMedHealth.com, mobility plans, fitness programs, and you know what's in stock? Tai Chi balls and all sorts of fancy colors. All right. Hey, listen, if you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to my channel, OcraMed Health on YouTube. Questions about exercises or injuries or whatever, just write in. I always get back to everyone who leaves a comment. And don't forget, OcraMed Health is here to keep you fit forever.